At one point or another, you have probably ridden a bike, sometime in your life, and for good reason, because it's fun. And if you have ever owned a bike, which, again, most of you probably have, you know that they break. You know that they aren't always reliable. They let you down. They're sometimes just a pain. They don't work the way they should. Sometimes they don't work at all. I got an entry level mountain bike for Christmas slash birthday last year because my birthday's in January and you guys know how that goes. But you know, I remember the first time I went out riding it, the chain snapped and I had to get that fixed. And then a couple months after I've been riding it for a while, I take it in to get repaired, only to find out that the warranty that came with the bike doesn't cover anything except for the frame. Thanks, Cannondale. I ended up paying $30 for a repair and a new part, which maybe that's a good deal, maybe it's not, I don't know. But I was angry because that brand new bike that I had just got wasn't working the way it should have been. It kind of just like let me down from the start. And I was forced to pay for a repair, which, at the time I didn't know anything about repairing bikes on my own. But after that incident, I got thinking, I could be saving a lot of money if I put some time and effort into learning how to repair a bike on my own. I was totally open to the idea of learning how to fix a bike, but I knew pretty much nothing about it at the time of the broken crank arm. So I decided that the next time my bike breaks, I would have to try and fix it on my own. For a long time, no opportunity presented itself. So, I was just riding with no issues, which, I know is kind of uncommon. I used it a lot. It was definitely my favorite gift that I have received in my life ever. I was riding one day on the bike path around our house that leads to a couple grocery stores, a few gas stations, restaurants, just one of those areas that has a little bit of everything. Whenever I go for a ride, I just stop by and go inside to look for just about anything, just because they have just about everything. I got that painting right there from Goodwill. There's a painting right there from Goodwill, and a couple more over there you can't see. But yeah, basically, I'm trying to cover my walls with art by the end of the year. So if you want to see a video on that, let me know in the comments below. Regardless, I was in the Goodwill. I was in the text section. In the corner there, I saw an old, rundown, rusty, visibly broken road bike, and it looked like, from the 1970s, which later I learned that it was. I probably looked at it for around 30 minutes, just seeing if it was worth buying. I looked at every single component on it just to make sure, what was usable, what wasn't, if it was going to make sense to repair, if it was even worth buying. But after a while, it grew on me. I saw that the tires were dry rotted, the drivetrain was rusty and unusable, and I saw that maybe there was a lot of work that had to go into it, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to put in that work. So what I did was I left the store that day without buying the bike, and I told myself, if I come back here next week and it's still here, then I'll buy it. So I go home that evening and I can't stop thinking about the bike. I was on the fence, but like once I actually left the store and realized that I might not get it, that I just like I wasn't cool with it. So I went back later that evening and I bought it. It was being sold for the low price of $55.99, or yeah, $55.99. I kept the tag for it. So when I said I went back that evening and bought it, I mean, you probably thought I was in a car and I could bring it home in the car, but I don't operate like that. I That would be too easy. I started riding my mountain bike home with one arm on the handlebars, and then my other arm on the handlebars of the other bike, which I took up the entire walking path, so all the older residents weren't exactly happy with that. I couldn't wait to get to work on it, so when I got home that evening, I wanted to get it in rideable condition by the end of the night, just so I could take a quick lap on it. And I did. I just filled up the tires with air, which surprisingly the inner tubes were both fine. The tires were both dry rotted and had a little bit of tread left on them. It probably wasn't safe, but I've been riding on those tires since I bought the thing like 3 months ago. I have some new tires coming in the mail, but probably should have been a lot sooner that I had decided to replace them. Like I said earlier, the derailleur was completely shot and needed to be replaced. So I ended up taking off the wheel and taking off the derailleur, putting the wheel back on, and with no derailleur. So the chain was like really, really loose, and but it rode. I remember going around the driveway. The brakes weren't working, and the chain was not quite dragging up against the pavement, but it was pretty close. Um, yeah, I remember we had some guests over that night, and they were playing basketball out in our driveway, and I was just doing laps around it. And since the brakes didn't work, I ran into one of my friends. Sorry, Matthew. The next day came, and I remember getting up and going straight out to the garage. I didn't even eat breakfast. Well, I usually never eat breakfast, but still, I went straight out to the garage and started working on it. I knew I needed to replace the derailleur, so what I did was I took an old derailleur off of an old Walmart mountain bike that I didn't really ride that much anymore because, well, it's a Walmart mountain bike. If you guys have ever ridden one, you know exactly why you don't want to ride one. But I took the derailleur off of that and it worked fine. On my road bike. It's not exceptional, obviously. Just because those Walmart bikes have cheap componentry on them and they're not really good. But I've been using it, ever since. It's actually worked all right. I remember taking my first ride with it, past the driveway, I mean, and I remember just going up and down the road, and I was shifting it with the stem shifters that are to this day I think are pretty awkward, but um, I remember I was able to get going real fast on it, and it felt uncomfortable. It felt like the bike was just gonna fall apart on me because I didn't really trust it just yet. So I get into upgrading it. I didn't really replace anything other than the derailleur at that point. I think the next thing I did after that was I cleaned the drivetrain pretty good. I just took some dish soap onto the chain and rear cogs, and I just cleaned the whole thing up. Wiped all the grease off the frame that was there. And that itself made a world of difference. It looked a lot better. Just with a simple cleaning. After cleaning it, the only other thing I remember doing the day after I bought it was I tried tightening the brakes, which they were center pole brakes. Those were the stock ones. I ended up replacing them, but they were the stock center pole rim brakes. Which, if you guys know what those are, you know that they are not reliable. They don't make them anymore for a good reason. I started taking it around on bike rides with my friends and, going to get ice cream at the UDF down the street. And I started, getting compliments on it and, some hate comments on it too. I've had people describe the bike as classic and thrifty and timeless. And I've had some people call it hot even, which still I don't understand why that makes any sense. I've had people say things like, hey, 1874 called it, wants its bike back, and what are you gonna do with that? And my grandpa had a bike just like that when he was a kid. You know, just those things that you would expect to hear from people, you know, looking at a super old bike for the first time, you know. It is a 1973, I think. I'm not sure about that, but I'm 85% sure it's 1973. But it's not like that old, you know. I mean, it's 40 years old, which, you know, pretty old for a bike, but like it's not like museum worthy, you know. As I started riding it more, I noticed some room for improvement, you know. As I was pedaling, you know, my foot would slip off because the pedal had a rounder geometry to it, and it would just like roll off, and my foot would go in front of the pedal, which could have ended up in various injuries, which thankfully didn't happen because I replaced the pedals with some flatter ones, also from the Walmart bike. The seat post was seized up, so I ended up taking it out and cleaning it up and putting it back in with a new seat clamp, also from the Walmart bike. I noticed the brake pads were kind of worn out, and I could use some more stopping power. So I decided to get rid of the old ones and put on some new ones. And by new ones, I mean I got them off the Walmart bike. Once I realized the brake pads weren't really enough of a difference, I got some calipers too. Like I said, you know, I'm thrifty, I'm cheap. Not like cheap, but you know, I'm not trying to spend more than I need. But anyway, I went to this thrift store specifically for bikes, and it's like a non-profit ran by volunteers, so they have super low prices. So I got a nice pair of good side pole rim brakes for like $10, and I replaced the cable housing and cables for another $5. So I got the whole brake system fixed for like $15. I 3D printed this flashlight mount for it so I can ride at night with more confidence and a bit more safer too. And like I said, I 3D printed it. I designed it. I know it doesn't look the best, but I might like make a revised version later. After owning it for quite some time, I can look back on it as probably the best $60 I've ever spent. You know, it's just been great, you know, being able to have a second bike, you know, because you quickly realize with a mountain bike is that it's not really made for the road, which, you know, I do a lot of riding on the road, but, you know, I ended up spending a lot more time with my mountain bike off road, which is, you know, what it's intended for. And then I started using my road bike, you know, for my errands and going to Goodwill again, and you know, just going to all those places that you access through the road. I would certainly recommend this to anybody who wants a nicer bike that they can customize and make their own. And I would recommend it to anyone who wants to learn how to wrench on a bike and stuff. And you know, even if you don't have that much money, you know, you can still get something that meets your standards and fits your needs and doesn't break the bank doing it. But that's really about it, you know. It's a story that I'll probably end up telling my grandchildren, and you know, I might end up giving the bike to my grandchildren because you know those solid steel frames end up lasting like forever. So here it is. It's a Nishiki Custom Sport from 1973. I'm like pretty sure that's the year it's from. I got this upgraded seat here, which has seen better days. I remember we've had this thing for 10 years, and then one day I just pulled it off the shelf, and I'm just like, you know what? It's probably a good deal more comfortable than the stock one. These brakes, of course, are upgraded, and these tires too. Um, this this rear derailleur here is off the old Walmart bike, which has seen better days. So I put that derailleur to good use. Pedals, pretty basic plastic, you know. They do exactly what they need and what I need them to do, but nothing too fancy. I got this bar tape redone, or I redid it. As you can see, I didn't do the best job. You know, it was my first time doing bar tape, so you got to start somewhere. yeah, all these brake cables and housings I redid. And this flashlight mount here, yeah, it's a beast. So here's the Walmart bike after everything I've taken off of it. No brakes, no shifting, no problem really. Yeah, I have the normal drivetrain. I've just made it a fixed gear just to take all the shifting components off. This fork is completely seized up. I've taken the brakes off of the front and the back. Do have these upgraded grips though. These are not the stock ones, and they're a good deal better than the stock ones. The seat wants to slip all the time since it wasn't really tightened down when we first sat on it. So it kind of stripped out, and as a result it just leans back. I've tried fixing it multiple times, but there's just no grip right here where there should be. And then of course we got the pedals that actually spin pretty well for, you know, being 40 years old. But you know, they're round, which is why I got them off the road bike. So as a result, you probably have one of the most unsafe bikes I've ever seen in person. So that's it for the first video. I know it was kind of a train wreck. I know the frame rate was terrible. I knew that my audio quality wasn't the best. You know, there's certainly room for improvement, so let me know of some ideas or constructive criticism you have in the comments below. I'm happy to hear your input. With that said, thanks for clicking on this video, and I hope you'll click on the next one. God bless, and talk to you later.